Hey guys, thanks for joining me today. We're here today at Coffin Comics HQ in the Brian Pulido archives, and we're actually in the writer's room. Don't tell Mike MacLean. Thought you could join me today with Jimmy Calabrese as we talk all things Gunfighter, Lady Gunfighter. So yeah, come on by and join us.
So what are you working on here currently?
Right now I'm working on some remarks on the Lady Gunfighter Tales of the Coffin verse, which is primarily the first appearance of Eliza Ryan, our protagonist in the Lady Gunfighter story. Cool little story that Brian and Mike came up with that I got to illustrate that was part of this anthology series, and it was my first introduction to this character, so it was a lot of fun. It was a great opportunity to explore this unique idea that started with just, like I said, a short story from the mind of Brian Pulido and Mike MacLean, which we have now extended into Lady Gunfighter Desolation Part 1, a 48-page graphic novel that we've just launched on Kickstarter. And currently, I'm actually 44 pages into the second part of that story, which we have yet to name. So it's been a blast to be a part of this whole thing with Brian and Mike. These guys, they have a real knack for creating edgy, darker kind of stories that have a little bit of texture that I really enjoy bringing to life, with obviously the very distinct style that makes it Coffin Comics. So it's been a fun ride. I'm really excited for people to check it out. I really want for the book to do well because the second chapter is so much more fun and exciting than anything I've ever worked on, and it's just a blast. It's a fun thing to bring together with these guys, and we're in our best form on this book. And if you're a big fan of spaghetti westerns and dark, edgy stuff, you're gonna get a kick out of it.
So Tales of the Coffin verse, did you think this would turn into something more when you were working on that originally, or did you just think it was a one-off story that kind of one and done, or did you have a feeling?
You know what? We had talked about it. It was a conversation, and the hopes were that we could make it into something. And if at the time when we were designing it, because Brian and Mike, they had ideas about it. They had some thoughts, and we were kicking around imagery that provoked, inspiration in regards of it, and it really gave me a sense of what the tone of the story they were going for was going to be like. And the more I learned about it, the more I got hooked on the idea. And it's like all of those cool things that can kind of happen organically, where it all started kind of coming together. The pieces started to really create a world that made sense to me. And when they had the short story idea, I didn't feel like I knew the character completely, but I started to understand the world that they were building, and it was a fun way to explore those themes. But by the end of that short story, I felt like I was more into it. I felt like Brian was more into it. I felt like Mike was more into it. We all just started to kind of get into rhythm with it, and I had hopes by the end of the story that I was like, okay, man, just let me know when the new script for this kind of thing is ready. And yeah, and it kind of came together the way it did. I'm super grateful for the opportunity, and it's been a fun ride because very rarely do you get to have the opportunity to start a fresh new story or a new character the way that we did. And it kind of reminded me of working on La Muerta, the very first chapter, and it was a fun ride doing that, but it wasn't everything I had hoped it would be by the end, because after looking back on it, I had so many things I wished I could have done better. I'm much more experienced now than I was when I worked on that book, and there was no faults in it, but I wish I could have done justice to some of Mike's amazing ideas and scenes. But maybe that's just the artist in me, always wanted to be a perfect image. It's anything that could make the concept better, I'm all for it. And so using that mindset, we attacked Gunfighter, and so I did my best to design scenes that reflected the mood that Brian and Mike were evoking, and I loved it. I think overall it was an awesome learning experience, and with the hindsight of La Muerta behind me, and the experience of years of working with Brian and Mike collectively, like we've worked together, it really came together in the way that I enjoyed. And man, I can't wait for people to check it out. It's going to be awesome.
So what part of Lady Gunfighter, something about the character that you're excited for people to discover? Without giving away too much.
Right. I think Eliza Ryan, aka Lady Gunfighter, she's a very unique character in that she's very stoic and she doesn't say much. And I think it's a refreshing angle for the genre and the character itself. It's rare to see a female lead that would have that kind of approach and still be really charismatic. And I think we get that in spades with Eliza Ryan, aka Lady Gunfighter. And I love her attitude. I love the style that she carries herself in. And oddly enough, today, or I should say yesterday, when we were doing the Kickstarter launch for YouTube and Facebook, I finally got to see a lot of the different takes on the character. And it was so awesome to see all these amazing artists doing the rendition of this character I've been spending the last 7-8 months with in my head in solitude as I worked on these stories. And only in seeing all their interpretations of this really cool character did I realize how attached I had become to this fictitious person that wasn't even real, that I was creating. And it was just everything about her, her attitude, the way she stood, the way she glanced at somebody, how uniquely her own she'd become in my mind. So to see other people's takes on it was refreshing, because it was like, oh wow, it was as if she had a different personality. And so that was a neat thing for me, and I enjoyed it a lot. But it also reminded me how far the character and my relationship with the character had gone. And it's nice to see that, to feel that, because I don't think about it. And then when it finally happened, I just felt like, wow, this is cool. I can really get a sense of who she is. I can imagine her walking down this street, or how she would, her scowl, or how she would look at someone. And I just don't think about those things till you see it from a different perspective.
That is fascinating how the creation comes to life. Because yeah, all the hours and times thinking about her and how she would react, and it becomes a real entity in your life. It's just pretty magical.
Yeah, it's pretty unique in the sense that you get a sense of how they would carry themselves in a certain situation, how they would shift their weight when they walk, what kind of situations they would be in and what situations they would not be in. And you don't think about it as it's happening because you're busy telling this story. And in it, you start devising a collection of expressions or attitudes or emotions that the character would have based on how you portray her. And you don't think about it till it's happening. And maybe a big part of it is because I continued on from not just doing the first 48-page chapter, but I dove right into the second part as well and kept that going, just because I was feeling the energy from the story and I really wanted to keep going. And Brian and Mike offered me the chance to jump onto La Muerta and then come back to Gunfighter, but I didn't want to. I just wanted to keep going on with Eliza and see where she took me, and how far along in the adventure we could get together. So it was a blast. I'm grateful for the chance to have done that.
So how much freedom does Mike and Brian give you to put your own take onto the character? Do you have to follow a certain guideline, or do you get the input, like you said, like with the stances and looks and stuff like that? Do you get the...
I guess I don't really think about it, because I did the character turnarounds for them a while back, and in those turnarounds I was already, I guess, inherently expressing how I would handle the character. And occasionally there would be small notes about certain things, but I think when they wanted me on board for the project, I think they kind of they knew that I would bring a certain energy or the style that I have. Maybe it was a fit in their mind for what they wanted to see, and so they just kind of let me keep going on with that. I have a relationship with the guys where, I've worked with them for, this will be 10 years now, and I have a strong idea of what I think floats and what doesn't, as far as what they want to see visually, what ideas they like to see expressed in the art, and I just kind of sharpen that up and I keep it going. And anytime I read Mike's scripts, they feel like a movie to me, and I think I try to keep that energy in the line art. And even though it's a Western, there's certain I guess there's certain qualities that I put into my art that just reflect the style that I go for, and Mike seems to enjoy it. We'll occasionally discuss certain scenes or certain things that we see in a certain way, or I'll ask him, hey, were you imagining the camera here, or were you imagining the camera here? And we figure those things out. We share a lot of the same things that we're watching, and then through that, I don't know, maybe it's osmosis or something where you realize like we have similar tastes or we enjoy certain things together. So that makes it easier too, knowing that we can build off of certain things. Did you ever see, or did you watch? And then we bring up these things and we'll reflect on that as something in a way to, reflect the mood or story that we're going for.
So do you think fans of La Muerta would be fans of Lady Gunfighter?
Oh, hell yeah. No, absolutely. That's the appeal of this, is that this character herself is, she's her own person. Eliza Ryan has an attitude and approach that's much different from La Muerta, aka Maria Diaz. But they're both badasses at their heart of the story. And once again, the story is a very important part of how they develop. And so I think the people that enjoy La Muerta are definitely going to get a kick out of Lady Gunfighter. It's got a vibe all its own. The Western setting is super cool. The way that Mike and Brian, the filter that they see this world in, this version of the West, I loved it. I thought it was unique. It was different, and it was refreshing, and it made it easy to want to be a part of. We're all big fans of the spaghetti westerns, a lot of that kind of stuff. Western comics, Brian was a big fan of. But we take those elements and kind of make them uniquely our own, and that's what makes it so intriguing. Is it was like having the guys who did this thing that you liked all of a sudden in a different era, a different setting, with the same aesthetics and attitude to the previous project. Now imagine it in this. And so, yeah, if you're a big fan of La Muerta, you're going to love Lady Gunfighter.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that you bring to the table is like you're able to create those atmospheres and backgrounds that just make it gives it so much more depth.
Oh, thank you.
And I know you mentioning you like doing backgrounds, you kind of cut your teeth in the comic industry doing the backgrounds, and I feel like it really shows because you put all those so much love and attention in the background, so when the characters do step onto the page, it's a fully realized world.
Yeah, and I think having gotten my start as a background artist was a huge thing that I still lean into a lot now. Using props and backgrounds and settings in a way that help tell the story can be a great way to kind of get people into the concept you're going for. And doing the research or looking certain things up has always been fun, but specifically for Lady Gunfighter, it's fun to kind of explore Old West themes and things like that. I was a huge fan of Red Dead Redemption, the video game from Rockstar Games, and I often would look up, stills from those games, and man, it's so amazing the way they depicted the Old West. And so leaning into some of that inspiration to help create this world, but adding our own blend of the dark, edgy Coffin Comics kind of vibe to it was a huge part of what I think helps make the story unique. And it's funny, I want to keep exploring the world of Lady Gunfighter to really build it up even more. There's so many opportunities that I'd love to explore building that world, but you definitely feel it looking at these books. You can get a sense of how much the environments play a part of the story, and it's fun to, like I said, lean into that to build up the character and the tension that we've created in this story.
Was it hard to add the supernatural elements to the westerns? Because usually we don't see supernatural elements in the classic western films or TV shows. So
I thought it was awesome. I think it helped make it become a unique part of how we do it, and I think that edginess, that supernatural vibe is the difference. It's the distinct quality that makes it a Coffin Comics book, and I enjoyed it a lot because it gave it a refreshing twist that you weren't ready to see or you weren't expecting, And that's a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that part, and discussing the power of these guns, this cursed gun and these cursed bullets that they somewhat speak to Eliza. You know, they kind of put voices in her head, and there's some sort of demonic possession going on with it. And as she's using these guns and these bullets, they seem to affect her more and more. And in a weird way, there may be a connection to all of that. And there's a big part of the story that kind of expresses those ideas, and you get a sense something more is going on. And you really want to explore those themes and figure it out through the experience of reading a story. And I think Mike and Brian did a good job of laying those things in and giving readers a sense of foreboding, because she uses them to gain. You know, she's, you know, going after the bad people in our stories, but to what cost? To what end? You know, there's a lot going on there. There's a lot under the surface for that, and I'm really curious to see what people think about that and what they'll make of the whole story.
And if anyone watched the Kickstarter launch, they would have saw that your enthusiasm for the second chapter that you're currently working on, you're like,
Yeah.
you're way ahead, and you're super excited, pumped. You can't wait for people to read the second one.
Yeah.
And Mike and Brian are teasing you, saying like, hey, make sure people read the first one.
Yeah,
But,
I'm so ahead of it, because the thing is, like, the first chapter sets up so many really unique things. Mike and Brian did a great job, a brilliant job of setting up some really cool ideas and situations in our story. And I didn't expect it until I was knee deep into the second half, when I was like, oh, they're doing that, and that was mentioned in the, oh, this is cool. And so it's a fun ride, and I think, like I said, I'm so far ahead that this first chapter became like it was behind me, but there's so many good parts that were set up in the first part, in the first chapter of Lady Gunfighter Desolation, that I was so far past because I'm just knee deep in the second chapter. And again, it was just really cool character development, and I'm excited to see what people think of those setups and the ideas that they present in Lady Gunfighter Desolation. It's neat. It's a really cool take on the Western, and I think people are going to really love it. I've spent, over 7 months, 8 months doing this stuff just kind of on my own, not able to really share any of it, and just going over it with Mike and Brian. And again, that's the way we designed it. I love every bit of it, but it's also taking a deep dive on an idea that we're putting together, and it's a lot of fun. But it's nice to finally have the first part of this available to people to experience. We put a lot of thought into it, and hopefully it shows in the work. The colors came in, or I just saw the colors from Hedwin Zaladar, and they looked amazing. Like they helped create such a cool vibe to the story in Desolation, and they add so much. You know, it's neat to see it come to life after having spent 7-8 months just looking at black and white images in my head or in my folder, and having Mike and Brian here talking about it. And it's just neat. It's a really cool experience to finally see it come to fruition. I can't wait to see it printed out myself. It looked great. I love it. It looks awesome.
And what gets me excited to see how excited you are, and to hear that, you know, it's been 7 months working on this and you're still this excited.
Yeah.
So I just can't wait to get into the full, we've seen the preview pages, but I can't wait to get deep into it. I don't like to, get advanced. I like to read it with everyone else as it comes out.
Right.
And
right.
It's almost like watching a movie. And especially when you send out the digitals, and at the end of the Kickstarter, and everyone gets to watch it and put their input in it, it's super fun to experience it together.
I think what's fun about it is, for me, I've been working in the streets of La Muerta for quite a while now. So to pivot and have it be what it is, where we're at with Eliza and Lady Gunfighter, it's been amazing. And I think the change of pace is a big contrast for me, absolutely. But I also think seeing the world that these guys are creating, it's been a blast. And I have to mention, like, my partner in crime here, Mr. Mike MacLean, He did an amazing job putting this whole thing together. We're just talking about the world building of Lady Gunfighter. The difference between, I don't know, Maria Diaz and her modern day urban jungle versus the desolate, dry landscapes of Eliza Ryan.
Yeah. There's definitely some crossover in
Right.
the type of characters they are. I think Eliza came from a little more of an innocent background, so
Right.
she wasn't a soldier. So, but yeah, there's definitely some intersecting themes there.
What do you think about jumping from, like, well, you do all kinds of stories, but what do you think of the idea of jumping from, like, the urban setting of what La Muerta, the storyline is, versus the distinct difference of what Lady Gunfighter's environment is like and the time frame that she comes from? Does it change how you approach the overall story, or does it not play as much of a part in the story?
I think especially in Lady Gunfighter, the setting, in both stories, setting is important, but Lady Gunfighter, I think it's even more important. As tough as Maria Diaz's world is, Lady Gunfighter's world is deadly and almost post-apocalyptic.
Yeah.
They're almost lawless. The law is itself is an enemy. So yeah, that's one of the biggest differences between the two characters. She has to deal with a land that is just a lawless, desolate wasteland.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that was one of my favorite parts about the idea of this, was that, I mean, it was the early stages of American civilization. So it's like anything goes, so to speak. And I thought it helped define the character, especially given how stoic she can be. She doesn't really say much, but what little she does kind of reflects her personality or her ethics, I guess we should say, right? So, yeah, cool stuff.
So working with Joel, so giving him character designs, giving him the character of like how she's supposed to stand and act. Assuming working with La Muerta, it was so much easier working with him to do that. Joel was saying it was almost like simpatico, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think we work really well together in that regard. I'm always, my favorite part of the process is getting Joel's pages back and seeing his interpretation of what I've written. And he does such a great job of elevating the words into those images. I could write a 1,000 words, but that picture is really really speaks volumes. That he's able to encapsulate things and really raise the bar on anything that I've written. So if I'm able to give any sense of mood, he elevates that, and you can really. I think that's really one of Joel's strengths. If we can give some Joel some attaboys, it's you can feel the grit in the pages, and that's true of La Muerta too. There's almost a texture to your work that I don't really see in a lot of artists.
I think it's just that our tastes run pretty similar on a lot of stuff. So I know Mike likes certain things, or I like the same things, that when I'm imagining reading some of his scripts, I go, I can imagine this and that. And I go, I could see Mike liking that kind of thing. I'll try this. And I don't know, like I said, sharing some of that stuff makes it easier, because then it's almost like we're speaking the same language. And anytime I read his scripts, I never feel like I have to stop. And sometimes in previous years when I used to work at other places, if I didn't know the person very well, or if I was working on a freelance project for comics, if I got a script, sometimes I didn't know the writer very well, and they were fine, they were great people, but not having an understanding of their taste or sensibilities sometimes would give me pause in their script and how they describe something or reading it. And it's just natural. It's just, you don't know somebody that well. And I never felt like that reading Mike's scripts. And now on top of that, having the 9 plus 10 years, whatever, experience reading his scripts, they flow. I can finish the script pretty quickly in just reading it. And as I'm reading it, it just plays like a movie in my head. So all of that stuff makes it super easy. And rarely I'll ask a question about something. Okay, who is this character? Or where is this particular angle from? Oh, okay, cool. But it's never been, I think it's just so easy. And to me, I think of it as a sign of like, oh, okay, well then that must gel really well. So I'm just gonna roll with it. And I always submit layouts for approvals before I get to the finished pages. And I'm always just mindful of That's the one thing that and I didn't start out this way, but it's grown on me, which is always leave room for dialogue, guys. If you're drawing comics, always leave room for the speech balloons, because I've had to learn that the hard way, and I've gotten so much better at it, and I can tell how much room Mike may need. Sometimes he wants a little more than I have, or sometimes, I'll leave too much room, which is rare, but I always try to leave room for the dialogue.
That's super helpful. I'm always willing to edit a script. Like the images are always, to me, more important than a lot of the dialogue, but you do need that room. So I'm always appreciative. It really kind of speaks to Joel as a storyteller too, that he understands you have to leave that room, or maybe the first person who's speaking is maybe the focus of the picture a little more than the second person, or they're on the left, so you can see their balloon and it leaves the eye. He's very mindful of that rather than just focusing on the image. So I think he's a superior storyteller in many regards, but that is one of them.
So Joel said LaMorta fans would definitely love Lady Gunfighter, but why would Lady Death fans love Lady Gunfighter?
Interesting.
Well, I mean, at its root, badass chick. Beautiful badass chick, right? So at its root, that's Lady Death. She's definitely a very different character, but there is that level of confidence behind her. She is able to maybe hide any of her fears and trepidation, and maybe she does that with a little bit of bluster, like Lady Death does. But at its heart, yeah, it's a badass chick. But also there's the element of the supernatural. I think anybody who's a Lady Death fan, obviously is drawn to the dark supernatural. And that's an element in this book. It's not as prevalent as it is in Lady Death, but it's certainly there, as you can even see by the cover there with the demonic bullets flying everywhere. So yeah, I think Lady Death fans will dig it.
So we know Joel is excited about Chapter 2. Are you excited to write Chapter 3 and 4?
We, at full disclosure, we don't have a story for that yet. So I am very excited to, if these Kickstarters go well, which they look like they're doing pretty well, I would be very excited to revisit this world. I had a blast writing it, and seeing Joel's pages come in, they're just awesome. So yeah, there would, and there's a huge array of influences out there from all the great Western movies of the '70s that we can draw from. So
dude,
definitely
that would be really cool.
Yeah, if we can do another one, awesome.
Oh yeah, that would be amazing.
I would love to do more Lady Gunfighter.
I just feel like there's so many opportunities to build on what these guys already started. There's so many settings that I would love to see their filter over, just because that's what gives it the unique quality that makes it a Coffin Comics specific Western. The supernatural element is a huge part of it, but just the way the dialogue is handled, the interaction, the way the characters are with one another, the place is like, it's almost post-apocalyptic, but it's the Old West. It's so deadly, and it's a neat, refreshing way to see it. I hadn't thought about it in that way, and so it pays homage to the old Westerns that we all love, but in this weird filter that Brian and Mike have. It's so cool. I love it. It's awesome.
Did you watch any Westerns while you were drawing this? I know, while I was writing it, I tried to get into some Westerns. Did you watch any?
I did. I watched a few. I watched a couple of the Sergio Leone stuff, and then I definitely was very much inspired more by Red Dead Redemption.
Oh, okay, yeah.
A lot of the stills for that. Oddly enough, I don't know why. A couple times I watched the Gore Verbinski Lone Ranger one.
Really?
Which is interesting because it's not like a great classic Western, but there was a texture, a dirtiness, a grittiness in the film that really, I thought, played well with what you guys were creating. And I took a bunch of stills from online, and I would just look at them as inspiration for some of the stuff we were putting together. It was obviously a more modern take, but it really helped create this, this texture to how I was imagining our story, you know, and it added so much. Because the classic westerns, they're amazing. Once Upon a Time is a fantastic one for some of the characters and the silhouettes that they shared with the look, you know. But again, there was like this gritty grottiness to the Gore Verbinski film that I really liked, and it reminded me of some of the stuff I was seeing in the environment design from Red Dead Redemption that I thought played well. Because I'm a background guy. I love seeing cool backgrounds, and that game particularly had a really gritty, dirty look to it that I thought would fit well with the aesthetic you guys were going for. So it was a lot of fun. Thanks so much for joining us here today, especially with my super special guest, Mike MacLean. It was awesome being able to share a lot of this Lady Gunfighter Desolation behind the scenes stuff with you. I hope you get a chance to check out the Kickstarter that is currently live. Lady Gunfighter Desolation from Coffin Comics, written by Mike MacLean and Brian Pulido, illustrated by myself, colored by Hedwin Salvador, excuse me, Hedwin, sorry about that. Your colors are amazing. It's been a fun ride. I hope you guys give it a chance. Check it out. Tell your friends, please. Mike, what do you think?
If you can check it out, and for those who've already backed, thank you so much. It's doing great. Let's push it up to the next level and share it with a friend, share it with an enemy, as Brian says. I think you'll really enjoy the story.
Thanks so much, you guys. Have a great day, and please check out Lady Gunfighter Desolation on Kickstarter.
Hey everybody, this is veteran comic book creator Brian Pulido. We're here to ask for your support in bringing our all-new supernatural western to life. I'm talking about a 48-page original graphic novel entitled Lady Gunfighter Desolation. Set in the eerie ruins of post-Civil War America, Eliza Ryan thought she'd never pick up a gun again. As a teenager, she was Lady Gunfighter, star attraction of Winchester Willie's Traveling Wild West show. But Eliza gave up her sharpshooting ways to become a loving wife and mother. Then came that fateful night of bloodshed and fire. 10 years later, Eliza dons the Lady Gunfighter moniker once again in journeys across the ultraviolet hellscape that is the Old West. She no longer performs trick shots for adoring crowds. Now she shoots to kill, a cold-hearted bounty hunter harboring a shadowy secret. A demonic revolver rides in her gun belt, a weapon of dark power that whispers to Lady Gunfighter in an ancient, malevolent language. But will cursed bullets and sharpshooting skills be enough to stop the man responsible for destroying Eliza's family, the infamous killer, Jebediah Kane? Helping me bring this dark tale to life is co-writer Mike MacLean, illustrator Joel Gomez, colorist Hedwin Salvador, and veteran letterer Marshall Dillon. And look, this project is done. We just got a print, but I need your help to bring this story to life. Please pledge now and spread the word. Thank you so much, everybody.